Welcome to the December meeting.
Who's on phone number 774?
That's Bob.
Oh, Bob.
Hi,
Hi.
Bob.
I
Glad you
couldn't
found
get
us, Bob.
on my I couldn't get on my computer today for some reason.
Oh, and the reason is in the link, not in you. That's how we all got here, with help from Amanda to use our phones. Okay, so welcome, Bob. Welcome, everybody, to the December meeting of the Yarmouth Energy Committee. We're present here, Mike Duffy, Bob Palmieri, Camilla Flannery, Barry Margolin, and Amanda Lima, who is our town liaison, and of course the town engineer. I'm looking around and I'm not seeing any members of the public to introduce. If you're out there, Mr. or Mrs. JQ Citizen, speak up and say hello. Okay, I guess they're out Christmas shopping. Our first item of business, to which we defer to you, Bob, since Sandy is in Vietnam and can't help you, so you're there all by yourself, but you're the one who drafted them, is approval of the November 7th, 2023 minutes. I give you the floor, Bob.
I sent you all the draft minutes and have not gotten any mention of corrections or things that shouldn't be in there. So I move that we accept the minutes as presented.
Second.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? No, it's unanimous. Okay. Our next item is update on town energy news, if there is any during this month approaching the holidays. Amanda?
Yes, there actually are a few updates. They started this week for the trench work associated with the solar panels at the senior center. They, as you are very familiar with, that it's been an extended, delayed project because of trying to get equipment and labor and coordination with the senior center. But they have so far successfully begun digging the ditches, the trenches for those. And yeah, they're hoping to wrap up that work this month. I also was on a call earlier this week with CVAC to discuss, I believe, for around 4, the installations for the Yarmouth stations 1 and 3, and in which they gave a presentation with the contractor that has been monitoring the PV panels for the last 4 years now. And they concluded that of the, I believe it was almost 10 sites in which we had a couple of them, we were yielding 33% more power than they had estimated. So that was good in regards to the of those. Yep.
That's amazing. 33% more.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, if this doesn't convince people to use solar, what will?
Right.
And
yeah. No, good.
Who's doing the installation at the senior center?
Oh man, just it was there. The guy's name is Nick. He works for, I want to say his name is it Moore? Let me just double check.
Is he a Cape Solar guy?
Do we have
No, his last name, he works for Ace Solar. Yeah, and his name is Nick Moore, and he works for Ace Solar, and that's who's doing the work at the senior center.
Okay.
Where are they located, do you know? Did you spell that?
Yeah, his so his signature says that they're in North Andover, and that's ACE Solar, and it's an Alliance Clean Energy is what his signature says. And he was contracted through CVAC for that project.
Okay,
Do they have any, Amanda, do they have any sort of date when this thing might go online? Because we have proposed to the senior center that, and I guess we have to go through CVEC eventually, that we make this an event, the clicking on of the electricity. We can fake that, but should be a sort of a grand event, you know, with dignitaries there and some sort of symbolic switching on of the current as a way of highlighting the whole program, I guess, not just what it's going to do for the senior center.
Is
Well-
that something Ben committed to, or you are looking to try to put that
Well,
together?
we have proposed it tentatively to the senior center, and they're on board with the idea. Now we've got to start putting some bones into it, and then get some muscles on it. I guess.
Yeah, no, I can find out more information. I don't have a date yet. So I'll find out tomorrow if some more
I mean,
information.
at this point, or sometime in the springtime, seems like the best bet for it.
Yeah,
we
from what
don't-
I
I
gathered,
don't-
this was the last step in regards to their work. So obviously they have some coordination with Eversource, but I'll find out a more definitive schedule moving forward. This part right here was the hardest part to get them to come back. We've been waiting now for probably 6+ months.
yikes.
Bob, does the senior center still have that EV battery charger? The charger station?
Yeah,
Oh
they do.
yeah, I mean that Amanda would know more about that than I do. It's out there, standing guard lonely at the entrance of the path down to Townhouse Park, way in the corner.
And is it
I
free?
would be surprised if it's been used more than half a dozen times.
But is it free? Is it a free charge?
That I don't know.
Amanda, do you know?
Sorry, I had to step away for 1 second. I'll be right back.
That was Bill Scott who forgot that our meeting was from 4:30 on. So apologies for the interruption. I thought he was trying to actually check into the meeting when he called. So, well, Bob, it sounds like we've got some time to plan this party.
Yeah, we may even do it in coordination with one of our energy fairs, or I mean, energy events under Barry's auspices. You know, the decarbonize events that we planned. Maybe we could do them together or something. I mean, we've got that. I don't have it in front of me. That, when is it? March, April time frame when Diane gave us for having a decarbonize event.
Barry, do you know that?
You could read it in the minutes.
Oh, okay.
I mean, in last month's minutes.
Okay, but not quite outdoor time, though. Yeah, gotcha. Okay. I
Well,
just keep remembering a previous CVEC event at fire stations that was outdoors in warm weather and had its own sort of summer magic going. I think it was early June. But it'd be nice to have the solar up and running before then.
Yeah. I mean, as I say, get the current running as quickly as possible. Have the event at your convenience.
Okay. Well, obviously, I mean, I look at their programs and, you know, they book pretty far ahead. So if you need to hit us up with a tentative date at any point, this meeting or next meeting, even if it's way
Yeah.
into the future, we can get on that. Okay. Well, while Amanda's away, I might just give the Cape Light
Back.
Compact.
I
Oh,
am back
welcome.
now. Sorry. I'm
Welcome back,
so sorry
Amanda.
for that.
No, that's fine. Anyway, so Cape Light Compact update. It's a slow time for news at the Compact. The next board meeting is a week from tomorrow, 2 p.m. at the Compact headquarters. That's going to be involving mainly the annual budget. What we've been working on lately include improving relations with the Department of Public Utilities, and there have been some hopeful steps there. And we've made some proposals to go into the bin for early 2024, and we'll see what happens with that. The staff of the Compact had to prepare their 3-year plan for 2025, 2027, and get a draft of it in by October 1st of this year. So that kept everybody pretty busy this fall, because that's months ahead. Usually the draft version wouldn't go in till April 1st of next year. So some of the success with municipal aggregation does mean headaches for the Compact, which is the nation's first municipal aggregator, because it's totally scrambling the schedule. And when you allow for, dozens of municipal aggregators, you have to put your deadlines for drafts and final versions ever earlier. So for a while, Compact staff couldn't even take vacation, but now things are more at a breathing point. So there was some conversation about trying to get more business people interested in energy audits and in energy incentives. And that's something that, of course, continues on over each energy plan. But I just mentioned to you that Yarmouth several years ago did approve PACE, that property assessment incentive that has a complicated thing for businesses where they could get the free assessment, do the enhancements that would make them energy efficient, and then work that out with the town so that they would be paying that off a little bit each year as part of their assessment, as opposed to paying it off like as interest. I didn't understand why this was so preferable till Bill Scott recently explained it to me, which is that if it's part of their assessment on their taxes, as they pay it off, they can take the money out of operating expenses, and it's not a question of trying to prove income for a loan of the size that they would want. And that apparently is a key difference for business approval and business indebtedness that works very much in favor of making the energy efficiency measures easier for them to adapt. Okay,
Easier financially.
easier financially, but also it's a fairly simple thing that if the business is sold, or if the property is sold, because not all the businesses own their properties, the property assessment with the improvement supplement goes with the building. So
okay.
it simplifies it a lot.
In other words,
So-
the business pays for it, and the property which they don't own, that they're paying rent on, gets ultimately the benefit of it.
And it might be in some cases that that they could convince the commercial property landlord to do it, because it would be in the landlord's best interest. But it seems like that's a very simple thing, especially if, businesses are going to close or if they're going to move location or things like that. That way they won't have themselves gone into big debt. And say if it's like a big lender in town, would be somebody like Davenport. Suppose there were retirements in Davenport decided to sell the business. That would all go with it. It wouldn't be debts that had to be paid off.
Yeah, okay.
So anyway, it's a future thing for us to think about. You know that I'm just dying to finish with everything solarized, and get the YAP, the Yarmouth Assistance Program, up and running. Bill Scott's going to administer it for the town. And once that's free, we can start to think about more big projects, including what Mike will be telling us about where we are in our operating plan in January. But I'm also very attached to that tree project and memorial tree plantings and all that. So, but PACE might be something where Energy Committee could help as a team. So that might be something we could think of maybe a year from now. Okay, any more questions about compact businesses, energy incentives? Okay, moving on to the next item, update on Solarize Plus, Mike and Joyce, and anticipated implementation of the Yarmouth Assistance Plan. The good news is that the Assistant Town Administrator has gotten used to us calling it YAP because it's so much faster. That was a no-go for a while because it sounded kind of goofy. But now I notice he used it many times in our meeting this morning. It looks as if the early 2024 launch is going to be what happens. I was hoping that we would get a meeting in December, like I had also hoped for pre-Thanksgiving, just so we'd have some meeting in 2023. But instead, all the customers are going to get a mailing in 2023 that's going to be frequently asked questions. And those have been drafted and submitted. Mass CEC is the part of this operation that hasn't yet approved those, but we hope to have those back soon. Then those will go out. And when those go out, it's going to be with an announcement that also asks people if there are any other questions that should be in the FAQs. And so we'll be looking for some response there. There's also going to be a 2-page explanatory item, one of which is a report to the Board of Selectmen, and then page 2 of which is a summary of the history beginning in fall 2019 of Solarize Yarmouth, Mass CEC, the town, SolarWolf, SunPower. That's going to be given to the selectmen for their purposes to be able to keep track at this point of the dates, because of course many seats on the Board of many seats on the select board have changed since 2019. Those will both be available tonight. They're in the Board of Selectmen packet, and I expect that the report live to the select board will be at 6:45. That's the scheduled time. You know how that works with our town. If there are lots of people being expressive in public comment, that will be 7:15, but it's scheduled for 6:45.
Right.
Yep.
Is that page 2, the summary, going to the board today?
Yes.
Who prepared that?
That was prepared by Connor at Mass Clean Energy Center. Then it was sent to Yarmouth, where Bill Scott and an assistant did some editing on it. And we sent in a final edit today because it looked to me like where it said several customers, it should say several dozen customers. But I felt that if we just dropped several, that would make it clear enough that it was, many customers. So just kind of Yarmouth customers.
You got to review and comment on it and make sure it told the truth?
Yes,
From our
yes.
perspective?
My one concern was that it seemed to imply that all our Solarise customers were Yarmouth residents, and there are 3 exceptions to that because of our getting town's staff included in the program.
If it came, CEC did the original write-up, the
Yeah.
initial write-up.
Yeah.
Say anything up front there about who was responsible for picking Solar Wolf?
It did not, and I know that disappoints you, Mike. Skipped right
Oh.
over that.
Well, it did not, but at least it didn't say we did. It was our responsibility. They just ignored it.
Nope, that was kind of just omitted. It was, it was a program from the state that Yarmouth signed on to, and then the attention after that was to talk about Solar Wolf panels, Yarmouth residents, in a way that, if you get me, in the first paragraph of the explanation, and I'm going to send you all copies of this, it mentions Mass CEC, but then Mass CEC isn't mentioned again on the whole page. So that was pretty interesting. So I think there's a lot of putting the past aside here.
Passing the buck. So you're gonna send us all
Yeah.
an email
Yes.
copy of both pages?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, and then if you want to watch tonight, you'll see what the Board of Selectmen has to say about it. I'm going to be sending an update to all the Solarise customers, and that's going to include, in case you have any games you're watching tonight or big social plans, that's going to include the actual minutes when it got discussed, so that they can look it up on the Yarmouth YouTube. And so I'll put that in for you as well, so that you'll have it.
Thank you.
Okay, Mike, do you want to add anything here? I know we talked earlier about the database stuff, so.
That's the only thing I know new. You're doing it all, Joyce.
Well, it's it's going to get done eventually. I mean, I can't believe how long it's taken. But it does look like everybody will take their assuming they want to take it, then their federal tax incentive for the tax year 2024, because that's when they'll be finished and commissioned. And the other thing is, I mean, I'm so far into this. I mean, I no longer see forest. I no longer even see trees. I see branches and little leaves and leaf buds. But it seems that you can, as the town is doing, break it down into 3 big categories. One is will be helped by YAP, Yarmouth Assistance Plan. 2 is will be partially helped by YAP, and will need a supplement from Home Improvement Contractor Guarantee Fund. And then the 3rd thing is Home Improvement Contractor Guarantee Fund totally. And that would be for repairs. Like we do have this one customer now who had panels, and Mass CEC went through the whole thing about hiring E2 Solar to do the official finishing and calling in the inspection and getting them commissioned with Eversource, even though all the paperwork was done and the panels were up. And even though the husband was a retired electrician, because he couldn't do it or it would invalidate the SunPower warranty, because he wasn't a SunPower certified person. So after all that, it turns out, like with the heavy rains, the solar panels are put too near the edge of the roof, and messing up their gutters so that it caused a flood down the wall. So they're applying, and this is like a fluky one customer only thing, to get reimbursed for the cost of their new gutters. What can I say? Solar Wolf, the gift that keeps on giving. Oh, one other thing, and this is pretty hopeful. We do have with the Solarize Yarmouth customers, the people who listened the first time that the Home Improvement Contractor Guarantee Fund was broached, have now received notices because it's been that long. They've moved up in the queue, so that they would have to pay, depending on the amount of reimbursement they were requesting, several $100s for an arbitration fee. But as of yesterday, there's a staff person at the Home Improvement Contractor Guarantee Fund who has looked at one case and decided that the way to go for this, for people who are coming up to the point where they have to pay $400 or $350, is to keep them in the queue, but temporarily freeze their application until, as she put it, their solar panels are installed by SunPower and the job is done and satisfactory. So that seems more than fair. Okay, anything else on Solarize plus Yarmouth, Solar Wolf? Yep. Okay, Barry, over to you. I know you're going to give us an update on Decarbonize Cape Cod and what's up with the Cape Cod Climate Change Collaborative activities. Do you need to share your screen with Amanda?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
I
Well,
mean,
Barry, the floor is yours.
yeah, so there's not a lot to update. I love the idea of planning the formal celebration of the panels at the senior center with a Decarbonize Yarmouth festival. If it can be scheduled for when it's warm enough to do it, as at least as a mixed indoor-outdoor thing, so that it can accommodate more folks. And I would guess that would mean May as a target. Provide plenty of time to plan it. But it, in the case of
Amanda and Bob would have a better idea than most of us on that.
as to the weather or as to
As,
as to the
as
space.
to the when. As to the when.
I mean, I can coordinate with Diane. I gotta coordinate with the contractor regarding schedule. I know that I don't know if it was Bob that kind of made a reference to, like, can the system be put online and this just be like a light switch turning on, or do you want to truly wait to activating the system until this event?
So is
No,
it,
I don't.
I think there's a question for you there, Amanda.
Oh, I had asked a question.
Bob, were you starting to say something?
Oh, I thought there was a question in return.
Yeah, the senior center is having a major event in, I think it's April or May. I don't have my notes in front of me, and they propose that we do ours in the month before it. But I would have, as I say, I don't have that in front of me and don't immediately have a way of getting into into the minutes of last month's meeting. And there are some things my short-term memory doesn't work on. And that happens to be one of them. I can't remember what month they're having their major event. But it would be obviously either the month before, or if that's going to be too soon, because we know the pace at which Eversource sometimes works, it might have to be after.
Okay, but in response to Amanda's question, I mean, seriously, Energy Committee members, wouldn't we rather have the panels producing and have a little show of turning them on, or even
Yes,
celebrate that they've
very
been producing for a
definitely.
month, rather than, have it the actual, lighting of the electricity with Eversource?
Yeah, exactly. Unless it's maybe just a week, and then we could, switch a button and light up everybody's hair.
Oh, that's always fun.
Yeah, so
mean, I
I'll find out from Diane in regards to their availability, as was noted that they're pretty busy and they have their large events. And then I'll also find out from the contractor. Like I said, you can't predict Eversource so much, but because they've got to do the tie over. So I'll like I mentioned, I'll be able to, touch base with them and, by the next meeting, have an update for where they're at for the schedule part. I know this is like getting the physical equipment in, but then you've got the formality of tying it over. So,
I mean, my own 2 cents would be that to plan an event that's actually going to draw people and be appealing, so I'm thinking, some bands and some food.
oh, wow.
Draw people who aren't just coming for because they love the senior center. That it shouldn't particularly matter when the technical events happen. If this is a show, and the production values will be better if we have a date well in advance, so we can actually plan it and organize it and recruit people to come. And we should worry less about whether it actually coincides with when something technically is actually happening with the panels. This is a celebration of the panels. And,
you
nobody's
just
going to know or care.
Barry, you just gave me an idea for your Decarbonize event when you mentioned band. We could also make this an age-friendly event and get the jazz band of the DY High School's very good jazz band, maybe to give a mini concert during this thing.
Now you're thinking, yeah. I mean,
amazing.
This should be fun, and I think for that to work, we're going to need to be somewhat arbitrary about finding a date that works for the senior center. That'll be when we can include outdoor space. And I assume I've only been to the senior center a couple of times, but I'm assuming that there's space outside that could be used for a crowd.
Oh yes, the big ballroom also opens up and onto a patio. That's in the crook of the building. The building is sort of a right angle there, and in the crook on the inside of the building is a large patio which opens onto the sunroom on one side, which is quite small in comparison with the ballroom on the other side.
So I think figuring out
And
when.
Bob,
Did Joyce freeze?
Look.
oh, I stopped because I heard you start. What I was going to say was, Bob, if you and also you, Amanda, if you could keep an eye on just one official little requirement here. Senior Center for its own events, gets to plan its own events. With anything outside, you want to be very careful about getting assessed for security or cleaning fees or stuff. So if this isn't like a senior center event that's featuring, say, the jazz bands and Decarbonize, and is folding all that into a celebration of the PV, then we should go in as Energy Committee as a co-sponsor, just so that there aren't fees charged. And we'd
Yes,
have to know in
exactly.
advance and go to the Board of Selectmen, but we could do that.
Yeah, you're right there.
But I'd say in terms of planning this, the most critical thing is to figure out with the senior center management, when in the calendar of the spring, it would be
Yeah.
amenable to them to host a big event. And if we don't have to worry about exactly when Eversource is going to do the interconnection, it'll make life much simpler. I'll celebrate it whenever we can celebrate it.
You should plan a date that's at least a month, if not 2 months, after the projected start date now.
Of Solarized Yarmouth, or of yeah.
Delays.
The only other thing
And have at least a couple dozen solarized Yarmouth projects finished.
Good thought.
The only other thing that I might share from what I've heard about going on at the collaborative is that there's a lot of concern about the offshore wind projects, which had seemed like a done deal. And the politics of Barnstable have turned pretty hostile to.
Oh, yes,
Oh,
I'm following that.
And they won 2 council seats on a council that was already not great. I mean, it's the only town in the Cape that never adopted the stretch code, never became a green community, now appears to have a strong, well-funded resistance to admitting more offshore wind. The Avangrid folks tell me that this town has a very weak position on resisting the first project at Pebble Beach, but it's because they signed an agreement, and that agreement in the Avangrid view is still binding. But we don't have a real presence in Barnstable in terms of the climate movement generally. And one of my main priorities regionally is we've got to build an organization in Barnstable. And that means we've got to find some folks who are potential leaders in Barnstable. If anybody here has friends in Barnstable who are climate advocates and might be persuaded to play a role in convening a Barnstable climate organization, when the state energy facility siting board approved the Avangrid project, the Cape Cod Times story had lots and lots of quotes of local folks who were furious about it. Nobody who was happy about it. That's just.
There was one on the social media that I'm a part of. I frequently chimed in, but there's a woman named Janice Kubiak, Kubiac, who very frequently comes up with very, very strong rebuttals to the nonsense that a lot of the anti-wind boilerplate nonsense which gets posted.
So is Jan in Barnstable now?
I'm not clear if she's in Barnstable, but she does have a sister who lives in Barnstable.
No, I mean, I know Jan. She was.
Oh, I do too. Yeah.
She was in Yarmouth when I moved here, and a great supporter. And but
Well, she's on. She's frequently makes comments on Nextdoor.
I'll reach out to her.
Mm.
But if anybody's got
Yeah,
other,
she's great.
other,
By the way, do you have
Sheila
to
plays with no people.
reside in Barnstable to be active there?
no,
I'm
but to really, to be effective in the shitstorm that's coming, once the next two wind projects get back on their feet, and there's a lot of other challenges in terms of the economics and the leasing issues, but it's going to be a hard fight. I mean, the resistance is ahead on points by a lot. I think there's got to be a core of Barnstable residents who are vocally advocates of the wind projects, and I'm sure that those folks are there. There's just, I mean, we had Gordon Starr was a great leader in Barnstable. Unfortunately, he succeeded in getting himself elected to the town council several years ago, so he's not in a position to be the grassroots leader anymore.
Yep.
He's an advocate, but he's no longer just a citizen. So we have not.
No, I was asking because I, with my wife, own a piece of property in the town of Barnstable. It's in Hyannis, and the house I live in here in Yarmouth is in a family trust, along with another house which is in the town of Barnstable, where two of my nieces live. And does that qualify me to be more active than I am in Barnstable, except as a commentator on these social media?
I mean, there's certainly no rules that say that only residents can speak at Barnstable meetings about this, but I think we all know why it's going to matter that some people who actually live in Barnstable and vote there are out front, and welcome suggestions as to either names or strategies to identify them, because that's in my to-do list these days.
Well, one thing I can say for sure is in looking at the stuff that the Save Greater Dowses Beach organization has, and I think that that's sort of where all the anti-wind stuff is focused, is they are getting help. They're too well organized to be a local Osterville organization. They may have started out that way, but they're much too slick in their publicity materials and stuff like that to be a local outfit.
Well, there are resources for people who want to agitate against wind turbines. We discovered that on the Cape.
Yes.
Yeah, and this is not a freakish local phenomenon. This is confronting wind projects all over the country. I mean, it's the same thing happened in Falmouth a couple of months earlier, where the resistance from the neighborhood that was the likely landing zone won with the select board and the town council and the town meeting in Falmouth, in slowing town cooperation with the projects. And it's going on all over the country. We're in a fight.
Okay, so if everybody, and this is, just informal, of course, but if everybody could think about people that they know in Barnstable who actually understand energy, maybe think of sending their names to Barry.
All suggestions are welcome.
Okay, any questions for Barry or more comments?
No, I got a question. Whatever happened to Rick Eldridge?
Oh, yes. He was very active for a while, and you remember he was actually the first part-time in Barnstable, part-time in Falmouth, energy officer for the town. But he worked very hard on that, and he also was working very hard on self-reliance. But he decided to give all his energy into the legalization of marijuana. So he moved causes, and I think he felt that the new cause that was going to be his big cause would probably hurt support for the energy causes if he were still in the face of those.
You mean they didn't want him growing pot around all the solar farms of the Cape?
I think he thought it would be giving the opposition an opportunity to say, the only guy who's really for this is doing pot all the time.
Oh, dear me.
But by the way, Yarmouth does have a new energy officer, of course. So he's going to be in that, excuse me, he's going to be in that bind a little bit like elected officials are who were advocates. But on the other hand, much of his job is education and that kind of informational advocacy. So he might be of some help. It might take a little while because he's new and he's from off Cape, and he specifically moved to Barnstable, where he's paying a horrendous amount for a rental in Hyannis, just so he would get to know the town. But I mean, he'll be very helpful if we can, help our allies in Barnstable who care about energy get themselves going.
We've got folks who are talking with them.
Good. He seems very nice, and let me just point out to Mike that he's a Tufts alum.
Oh.
Yep.
Who's that? You said Eldridge?
No, the previous. Oh, no, that the previous discussion. This guy, let me think. Sean something, very Irish name.
Who was the guy that came from Barnstable that attended several of our meetings years ago? Was that Eldridge?
Oh no, that's
No.
that's Gordon Starr.
So is it from Barnstable?
Yeah, he was a long-term energy advocate, but then to help energy causes, he got elected to the town council.
Oh. Okay.
So now he's got that kind of straitjacket that you have with official stuff.
As well as just a completely zooey life, because everybody in the neighborhood, needs him for everything.
Yes, yeah. There's a crack in this sidewalk. There's a light bulb and a light that needs changing. Yeah.
It's like being an alderman in Brooklyn.
Yes, exactly. So, and any more questions for Barry? Barry, shall I put you down to be continued for January on this?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, Regina's not with us. At some point, we will have a discussion about how Energy Committee and DY faculty might be able to synergize for their energy fairs. Okay, our next item is member announcements and suggestions for future agenda items.
I would.
I had this idea in my head, and I'm not sure it should be a separate agenda item, but connecting and it's based on seeing those new EV chargers at the parking lot of the new school is it time to be maybe suggesting to CVEC that there be a round of doing solar canopies in parking lots that have EV chargers connected with them?
Well, you know what we can do on that. We can put
Because
that as
that would be that's a way of you know killing two birds with one stone.
I can add to that a little bit. I was on that call earlier this week with CVAC and their the contractor that had done the Yarmouth projects for the fire stations, and they to date after 2021, when the steel prices escalated so much, it wasn't feasible for car canopies. But now they are reevaluating to see where the market is at. So as of the last couple of years, they weren't pursuing those. That's why the one at the fire station, number 3, hadn't moved forward, was because of the cost. But however, hopefully that may do a shift in the future. So I can keep you guys updated based on what happens at the fire station number 3, because that's where we were looking at adding the car canopy.
okay,
Well,
that,
I mean,
that would be great,
even
Amanda.
across the street, even across the street at DPW, that parking lot there where the other charger is, would be a perfect place, it seems to me, to have canopies and chargers where the employees could charge up the EVs that they buy during the day, and all the parking. Well, I wouldn't suggest any of the parking lots at the beaches because of the salty winds, but town hall, the senior center, the schools, the faculty parking lots, or all would seem to me places where it might be useful to combine, put together, solar production of electricity with charging electric vehicles.
Bob, I totally agree with you. This is Joyce. And what I suggest is that you draw up maybe 1 or 2 paragraphs for the January meeting. I'll put it on the agenda, and we can all make an official recommendation as a committee, and give it to Amanda to take to CVEC, satisfying open meeting law requirements, but also maybe a further nudge for CVEC now that the steel prices are down.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else with future agenda items?
I'd still like to bring us back to talk about the specialized code again. It had a couple
Okay.
of the Harwich Energy Committee had invited me to come and make a presentation to them about the specialized code, because they hadn't really learned much about it. And a discussion, and it reminded me that we sort of deferred conversation about it, but we're up to 29 towns across the state now that have adopted it.
Okay.
Keep
Now,
spreading.
do you want that for January or February, Barry?
I mean, it's not specifically time sensitive, but since I suspect the next step is going to be a fair amount of groundwork with, both town staff and other town committees, I'd love to talk about it in January, just so if we're going to move forward on spreading awareness of it, we can.
Okay.
move in.
January
Are you
is
looking
then. So
to? Are you looking to May town meeting or a special town meeting in the fall to actually have it on the agenda?
Mike, can I ask you to take over chairing the rest of the meeting? I have to rush to that Board of Selectmen thing right now, okay?
Yeah.
Which, I didn't know about until yesterday, that it was going to be something that really mattered tonight. Okay. Lovely to see you all. Have a great holiday. And I'll be sending you some stuff by email. Thanks.
Bye. So I did want to ask one question before Joyce left, but now she's gone. So I'm going to update the Energy Committee annual operating plan. And I guess, should I do that with the expectation that it will start laying out a plan as of July 1, 2024, the start of the new fiscal year? Does that seem reasonable to everybody?
Yes.
Yes. Barry seems to be.
Well, I guess I have no idea what it's going to look like, because in some ways we've never stopped, pursuing pieces of it. As long as that doesn't mean that we freeze everything until July 1st, but
I suppose a good start would be a status report on where we are. And then, as you say, continue as we've been doing, but maybe try to flesh out a little more detail on what we should be doing and who should be doing it starting July 1. So anyway, that's what I'm gonna think about, so.
Mike, are you retiring in June?
No. From what, from Energy Committee or from my part-time job?
You're from your part-time job is what I was thinking.
Well, I don't, when I started this job, I agreed to work half-time for them. That's been greatly exceeded. But part of my mission was to find my replacement. So that, recognizing that this was only interim, so I guess I will find out when I head off to Maui for 6 weeks, whether they think that I've got my replacement in place and they no longer need me. I don't know. I'll tell you what's driving me crazy is I'm starting to look into doing my taxes for next year. And boy, it's gonna drive me crazy. The worst part of it all is to keep it under these IRMA thresholds for Medicare. 'Cause in 2 years, I can see a huge Medicare payment required by both me and my wife. So I don't know, it's hardly, I kind of think whether it's kind of hardly worth working to get paid. Maybe just, volunteer for Energy Committee instead. It won't affect my taxes anyway.
just in response to the question Bob had asked just before Joyce left about what's the target meeting for the specialized code, my advice in all the towns has been bring it forward when you're in a position to win it.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
I had dinner with some folks from various other towns a couple of weeks ago, and Cecilia Buckley, who's a great advocate from Orleans, was still in mourning because they had gotten to town meeting with the support of the finance committee and the select board and lost by 10 votes to a wave of libertarian resistance that new building code requirements were somehow depriving them of their personal liberties. How the meeting got away from them. But
10 out of how many, Bear?
I think it was 189 to 179. So it was close. But I think there are only 2 towns in the state where it came to a vote and lost. The other 29 towns that have voted on it have approved it. But we don't want this to become a perennial loser. As I recall, it took Yarmouth a couple of rounds before the original stretch code passed. But there's no point in setting an arbitrary, target before we've done the homework to figure out, how much support we're going to have.
And when all the naysayers are likely to be out of town, huh?
So you're proposing General Colin Powell's philosophy. You don't go into a war unless you know ahead of time that you're going to win it.
Kinda, yeah.
Okay, anybody else have anything for Energy Committee? If not,
I make a motion that we adjourn until January.
seconded? Anybody seconding it? Barry seconded it, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, folks. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, happy New Year. We'll see you early January, if not before.
Okay.
Happy
Bye-bye.
holidays.
Bye-bye. Thank you.